Peace and blessings, family, and welcome to Labors of Love podcast, the Fatherhood series. We are here to inspire, uplift, and enlighten. Each episode, we will be hearing from fathers sharing their perspectives and experiences on all aspects of the fatherhood journey. This evening, I have the privilege of speaking with Mustafa Abdul-Salaam, father of three, and the founder and facilitator of the Ward 8 Community Economic Development Planning Process. The purpose of the process is to organize and mobilize the residents to create a community-driven strategic plan that will influence the short and long-term development of Ward 8, a historically black ward in Washington, D.C. Mustafa Abdul-Salaam brings over 40 years of economic development and managerial experience to his consulting practice. His background before consultancy work was in both the not-for-profit and profit sectors as a hands-on administrator. His academic qualification includes a BA in Social Anthropology and an MS in Urban Management Economic Development. Peace and blessings, family. So grateful y'all could join us. I am very excited about tonight's conversation. I have the privilege of speaking with my dad, Mustafa Abdul-Salaam. So, Dad, we're just gonna jump right into this conversation.
Well, that's beautiful. And let me say, this is such a special occasion for me because I know you win. I know you when we were talking about podcasts or anything. So to see you in this place is a beautiful thing. And I just want to tell you how proud I am of you and everything you've accomplished. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you. Okay, before I start getting off, what were your messages about this whole pregnancy, labor delivery process, and then beyond prior to becoming a father yourself?
Well, I think like a lot of men, very limited until you get into that space where it becomes real. I had a desire growing up, to be a father, to be able to, have children. I always thought, that it would be something, special for me because I, like a lot of men, I didn't have a father in my life. So it was, me wanting to not be that, and growing into, manhood. It was like, okay, let me prepare myself for at some point in time to be able to have children, raise a family. And so, that was a goal. And when I, had the chance to, marry your mother, that started the process. So yes, and you are the end result. So, so that's a good accomplishment. Yes.
Indeed. So when you were growing up, did you witness anyone pregnant? Like, do you remember any of your aunts being pregnant or anybody in your family? Because you're one of the older of the grands, but
yeah. Well, Pat got pregnant when I was in college, and I became her godfather, and that was probably my real first experience of the reality of somebody getting pregnant and then the outcome being a baby, So that was exciting, and it really encouraged me to want to continue to grow so I could actually be a father, because godfather is about as close as you can get without being a father.
Yeah.
And Mindy has grown up to be such a beautiful woman. To be a part of that was nice.
Yes. So and that was Kim, right? That was her, the pregnancy.
Excuse me, that was Kim, right? Yes, that was Kim.
And they both are absolutely beautiful women.
Yes, they are.
Yes. So as far as when you got into, when you find out that you're pregnant and y'all are having your first child, at that time, was there any real support around figuring out what this is? Were there childbirth classes? Were there like any kind of, outside of like going to prenatals, was there any information in preparation? Because I know the focus is on the women, but this is a transformational process for everyone involved. Did you feel that there was support for that at that time?
Not at that time. I've seen, growth in that area over the years. But in the 70s, when we started raising the family, the late 70s, it wasn't as commonplace to have classes and males participated. It was really a female thing. The male try to be supportive, uh do all the things that can make the woman comfortable. I think, yeah, I actually was in the operation room when all you guys were born, which was kind of unique. So I got a chance to actually participate at that level. But no, that we didn't have the same type of recognition that fathers need to be engaged early in the process that they have now, which I think is much more healthier. Because for men, because you don't physically carry a child, your relationship is pure emotional, and if you don't really connect early, and if you don't have the emotional capacity to connect, then you stay distant from the process. It becomes purely physical thing. So I think it's important that early that a man really embrace the pregnancy and really connects in a way that it becomes his pregnancy too.
Oh, I think that's beautiful and like a very significant point because that whole understanding of connection, right? Like one, and I think for everyone involved, it's like one day it's just you and you might be going through the physical transformation of carrying a child. But once that human being is in the world, you just became responsible
Right.
for someone outside of yourself.
Exactly.
So that
Yeah.
is that emotional
Yeah.
capacity, that ability to connect and
Yeah.
really have that love for the process and the experience. I think that's valuable,
It
valuable.
really is, and that's why maturity is so important. Because if you're not emotionally and intellectually and financially mature, it's a hard place to be at, because you become very overwhelmed. Because particularly if you're still a child or think like a child, that the prospect of having a child is, it's like, how am I doing this, So there really isn't any substitute to be, mature. I'm not talking about chronological age as more than just your own personal development, because it's the most important undertaking you're going to have in your life. I mean, there's nothing any close to having the responsibility of bringing another life in the world. And if you're not taking it that serious, then you already failed. So it's really reorientating ourselves and as a community to see bringing in a human being as our top priority, individually and collectively. I mean, that's how you change a society. The society is only going to be as productive and as effective as how we treat the birth of a child.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh. Oh my gosh, that speaks such value because if we think of like indigenous cultures, we have such honor for, the mothers and the future generations that come forth. Like there if Native American, any if you look at any indigenous culture, we honor that life. We
mm-hmm.
honor in significant ways. And then you see where we are in the Western world,
Yeah,
and we're talking about maternal morbidity.
right.
Like mothers are dying in
Mm-hmm.
childbirth, and the only explanation is racism. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's no other
Oh,
medical,
no
you know,
question. It's yeah. Well, even in their own culture, the majority culture, they don't put the emphasis on
yeah.
human life and the value of human life. Again, you measure a culture by how you treat children. I
Mhm.
don't care how advanced you are, how much money you have. If your children are not, adequately being developed, then you're a poor society, and you
Yeah.
don't have a future.
Right.
So for us, particularly as Black people, it's embracing what we have been, all of our existence, and that's people who highly value human life and see bringing in life as our most significant role that we can play. you
Yeah.
know and if we go back and accept that, individually and collectively, then our future is bright. I mean, every child is born has unlimited potential. We don't know what's being created,
Mhm.
and that's why you got to take every child that's born seriously, and you got to make sure that the mother, as soon as she realizes she's pregnant, gets all the support she needs so that she can bring in a healthy child into the world that can compete and perform. If we're not doing that, then we're handicapping children before they even come into existence. So again, you really measure a society by how well we take care of the mothers and before they give birth. If we're neglecting mothers, then that's a statement that we have no future. So supporting and the most significant role a man can play in his existence is protecting and supporting um, um, his woman, his wife, his mother, the mother of his child. I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't do anything else just to play that role, is significant. And I don't care, what your title is or how much money you're making. There is no other responsibility greater and has much significant impact than the role that a man plays in fathering a child and supporting the mother of that child.
Oh my gosh. Yes. So, yes, you said a mouthful and that all of it. Yes. So just to get kind of back to what the story is in reference to your fatherhood experience, are there any highlights from the births? Because you were present, at least at the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
when all three of us were born. Are there
Mm-hmm.
things that stood out, or like what was the ritual around when we came into the world? I believe there was something that was said to us before anyone could speak. Are there things like that that you could
Well,
share?
it was such a unique opportunity, and I was coming into my own spiritual development, and I really appreciate the role that spirituality played in everything, and the birth of a child is such a spiritual experience because like where'd that come from? I know my little role, but who brought this into place? So it forces you to realize there is something greater than you because whatever role you play, you didn't make that. I mean, the complexity of a child being born is beyond even thought. So
Yeah.
once that child is born and you realize, hey, this is a miracle, man. This is, this, so everything kicks in. And because I had, embraced Islam, and Islam, puts a lot of emphasis on looking at that child born and really trying to not only create an environment so the child can grow in, but even the name, and trying to match the name of a child to the vibration. I mean, it was an excellent experience because I had a chance to name all you guys, man, and and I tried to be reflective on what I thought the energy that you guys were bringing in, and
Mm-hmm.
and I, and to my amazement, you guys have grown into, exactly what your names are, man. I mean, really, so it's always amazing how those things play out. But yeah, and as a father, to be able to have that role, I mean, to me, that was the bonding experience. Your mother did her thing; she did her job. So my coming in and really, trying to connect you guys to going forward was a very special experience.
And that's amazing. So wasn't it a process like how you waited a few days after we
Yeah,
were born to
yeah.
actually
I wanted to study you guys, man. Find out your characteristics, man. All you guys were live, so you came out live. So yeah, and it does. I mean, sometimes I'm talking to you guys and you guys are manifesting what I thought you were gonna be manifesting, and it's like wow. So, but I think that's what happens when you connect at a very deep level because all this is energy, and we're all connecting to energy, and people express their energy, and if you're sensitive to the energy, you will see it, you will hear it, you will feel it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's beautiful. I love that story. So in reference to is there any wisdom or examples of how um, fatherhood changed you?
Yeah,
You might have had an idea of it coming in, but throughout this journey, even not
yeah,
even just in the early days, but
yeah.
throughout this journey, what are some of the things that you would um, share that can possibly impact someone else's life who might be early on in their journey?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, because of slavery and how as Black people and particularly Black men, we have played out in this culture. Um, the role of Black men have been very distorted. We have not really been allowed to be men in the true sense of the word. So there's a lot of Black men who didn't have the father role model, because of racism and structural issues, and just Black men not really being able to be a man in this culture. So you have a lot of Black men who, raised themselves or were raised without a male role model, and that is problematical, because you need role models, you need images so that you can figure out what your role is, and be able to get counsel. So growing up without that, you kind of forced to go out there and try to learn the best you can, and depending on your source, it could be either a good thing or a bad thing. Plus, there's psychological challenges that never leave you, no matter how old you get as a man, if you don't have that initial relationship, with a father. And women have the same challenges. But in talking about fatherhood,
Yeah.
I think it's compounded. So either because of your lack of fathering, become more conscious and aware of the desire to want to be, a father, or you kind of distance yourself, because in your mind, it's not. I didn't have a father, so my role is not that important. But we there's significant psychological damage in our community, and I think we have to be honest, particularly as Black men, to be able to talk about it. Some men say, well, he wasn't in my life, my father, I didn't need him. But that's not true. We all need that. And I don't care how old you get, there is that still desire to want to have that connection. So I think, again, part of our healing process is to, share that as Black men, and particularly young Black men, so that they, even if they don't have a father, they can be mentored by other men, in ways that can help them make that transition, and give them at least some modeling that you need to have, as a human being. So I think this kind of opportunity to talk about this is important, because we don't talk about it enough. Particularly as Black men, we get caught up in survival. But again, the role of being a father is so important that we have to put greater emphasis on that, because again, the more that we can get young males to understand their role as a father, and be comfortable whether they had a father or not, and playing a role of a father, the more healthier the community is going to become. There's some more support mothers can get to raise their children, and then the greater chance you have healthier children. So all that is connected, and the man plays a very important role, in the development of the family and the children. And we can't assume that once you reach a certain age, you understand that. I mean, if we were really where we should be, we would have schools to prepare men to be fathers.
Yes.
I mean, to me, we got schools for everything else. Why not have a fatherhood school?
Yes.
You know,
Wow, and that's definitely on point, and it's something that resonated with me. Like when, as you were speaking, just that whole understanding of community and having your village and what that means. And I know from my perspective, it was something that I built up amongst women, because as a mother, you want your children to have play dates, you want to have those
right,
kind of interactions. But we don't necessarily talk about, like, men need that same kind of connection
right,
with other fathers and other
right,
men who are at various levels, so that they
right,
can interact and add value to each other's lives, whether it's from a youthful perspective or a wisdom perspective or somewhere in between. But
right,
what you said, just even beyond having the school that for the training piece, but just the community around you to kind of give you some insight and give you some wisdom, because we don't know what we don't know, and we're all coming into this sacred process together, and there's a lot of weight to it, because what we're creating has such impact on our future generations, our legacy, our society, our community. But we haven't had the opportunity to give it the energy and the love and the healing that it needs to get back to that space. So yes, like everything is just so poignant, like it's
Yeah,
resonating.
well, we had this 400 years gap prior to being brought here as slaves. We had tens of thousands of years of connection. Where each generation, understood its role. What it was supposed to be about, and every generation did what it was supposed to do in creating the family, creating the community, and there was that continuity. So so where we're at in this country here, and throughout the diaspora in terms of African people all over the world, is getting back to that. And it's in our genetic makeup. All we have to do is just listen to ourselves, but we understand, clearly, and we got to create the space for that. We got to create space for us to begin to see, motherhood and fatherhood, as the divine role that we
Yeah,
have. I mean, like I said, there's nothing more important that you could do in your lifetime than bring a human being into this world and help guide them to be a healthy adult. There's nothing, So but we need to make sure that people are prepared to do that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an amazing segue into just what your life's work has been from a
Mm-hmm.
professional standpoint, and what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing. As I feel like it's all encompassing
Mm-hmm.
um, to the conversation. So if you could just let everyone know, and also include how to get in touch with you.
Okay. Well, I've been blessed. My life has been, just a reflection of a lot of people putting a lot of energy in me, seeing, the potential, and God blessed me to be on a course where, I've been, well educated and well trained to provide support for the community, and I've always had a desire to want to contribute to the well-being of Black people, but society in general. Because if we help Black people, we help everybody. So I started very early, focusing on ways of helping to develop the community through human service delivery, and it has evolved where I'm in a place now where I'm working to transform a whole community from a poverty orientation to a wealth building orientation. And what comes to that is a whole different way of dealing and an improvement in the quality of life, because that's the bottom line. If you're not improving people's quality of life, then you're really not helping them in ways that make sense. So it's been a journey, and one of the things of reaching maturity is that you have time to look back on things in ways that when you're in it you can't tell, and that's the beautiful part of longevity and aging that I think most people need to appreciate. So I'm at a point in my life, I've been blessed with 8 beautiful grandchildren, and I can't ask for any more. I mean, that's like icing on the cake. Every time I think of them, I look at them, and it's like, wow, you know. So, and that just, if anything, it just gives me more incentive to really make some kind of major contribution or impact in the world, because I want my grandchildren to have a much better reality than I had. If I got anything to do with it, it's really them being in a position where they have no limitations, and there's nothing to prevent them from doing anything they want to do. That's the world that I want to help, bring in for them and everybody else's children. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And it's interesting because in doing this new fatherhood series, I've had
Mm-hmm.
the privilege of reaching out to people that I'm familiar with, even people that I'm not so familiar with. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone that I've, reached out to who knew me from, growing up, from Connecticut or what have you, there has always been this similar vein in the conversation. And it's like, your father was the only, in some instances, example of a Black man that was an entrepreneur, that was doing something positive in the community. And it wasn't even from a perspective of this is what other people are saying about him. It's
Mm-hmm.
from this is the energy. This was the direct. I remember him from the Q house. I remember him, in the community, at the schools, in the lunchroom. I remember
Mm-hmm.
his presence, and you definitely have a presence at like six
Right,
five.
right. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
find that, for me, and I think even growing up, I didn't necessarily understand the magnitude
Right,
of
right,
what that mean, because I'm living this, like, this is just my life. But to
right.
to know that there was a contrast to that, where that wasn't the norm for them, just to see the overall impact. And it's been
Mm-hmm.
consistent in everything that you do, and in the growth and development. And you've definitely modeled that that's not something that stops. It's something that we continuously grow, and we continuously evolve, and our understanding expands. So
Mm-hmm.
I am so grateful and appreciative to be able to have this conversation. We have many conversations that I absolutely love, but to be
Right.
able to do this
Yeah.
on the show, and just all
Yeah,
of the
no, it's
insight.
beautiful. I mean, like I said, I've had a lot of experiences in my life, but to see you and your brothers, reach maturity, it's beautiful. I'm grateful. Just grateful that I can be here, and whatever contribution I've made. I mean, my biggest fear is that I didn't mess you guys up. I mean, that was my biggest fear coming up. I hope I didn't mess these guys up too bad. But to see you guys
I
now
think we all know that.
to see
I
you
think
guys
that's just
now and the kind of people you have grown into, it shows that God is merciful. God, that all you
most
gotta do is make the effort, and God will do the rest. So yes,
indeed.
yeah, yeah,
Well, Dad, I truly appreciate you. Before you go, I do want you to just kind of share your website in reference to what's going on down in Ward 8. I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
significant, and any community can utilize that as a model.
yeah.
Definitely reach
And
out,
I
because
appreciate that because what we're trying to do is create a model that other communities can replicate, and it's a model of how you again transform a community that has been involved in poverty, been involved in not having any sense of control or power, and begin to move them in a way where they can define their destiny. They can begin to shape what they want to do in the next 5, 10, 20 years, and mainly again to make sure that the children in that community flourish and thrive. So I tell people, we need to look at today, the child is born, and try to figure out what we need to do so that 20 years from now, that child has everything they need. They can go anywhere in the world and compete and perform. You can't wait till they get 5. You can't wait till they get 10. You got to do it before they're born in terms of the prenatal care. So again, as a community, that's what we have to work on collectively. We have to make sure every mother in that community, as soon as, even before she gets pregnant, that she understands the importance of motherhood, and make sure that she's focusing on taking care of herself so she can produce the most healthiest child she can, and then the community gives her all the support she needs in raising that child so that 20 years down the road they're ready. And
yes.
anything less than that, we're not going to be where we need to be as a people. And so my website is www.ward8 WARD 8 CED plan. And if you put that in, or you could just put Ward 8 CED plan, and our website is designed to give you all the information you need, and you can participate in some of the things that we're doing. And the goal is to create the model. Definitely want to share it with New Haven and other communities because again, it has the potential to help a lot of other people. Um, you know, make a healthy community. I mean, that's the goal, to create health in our community.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I will definitely be including that website in the description so that you can
Mm,
just click on it and get there.
okay.
But yes, so definitely, please. I'm grateful for everyone who tuned in tonight. So if you found something valuable, please share, share, share. Again, I know that there was a wealth of information shared, and just to see the imagery, I love that I'm able to be on this platform with my dad. Uh,
Beautiful.
and
It is.
see
Who would have known? 40 something years ago, that
That
this
we
would
would be
take place.
here today. Yes.
Hey, so it's just beautiful to see that. I'm like I said, I thank you so much for having me on and just being the person that you are. I mean, you're have always been an inspiration to me, continue to be. So I love you a lot. Love you tremendously.
I love you
Yes.
too. And
Yeah.
on that note, peace and blessings, family. Thank you for joining us this evening.